I remember the exact moment. I was sitting alone in my car, and I was crying. Not tearing up, crying for real. Like a broken kid. Every man has this moment at least once in his life, we just never talk about it. Especially not on camera. When a woman leaves you, it doesn't feel like sadness, it feels like a clean knockout. You don't sleep, you don't eat, you don't care about your future. You're not going through a breakup, you're being informed that your life has already changed, and there is nothing you can do about it. You try to talk, you open up to someone, for 5 minutes it gets easier, and then it hits you again, even harder. At this point no news can make you happy, and no event can upset you. You're empty. And here's the paradox, inside this grief, you start to feel a strange kind of power. Because you're no longer afraid. Everything you were afraid of, has already happened. It can't get worse than this. This is maximum difficulty. But the hardest part, is accepting one brutal truth. The future you imagined, is cancelled. Not delayed. Not paused. Cancelled. It's like you died, but stayed alive. Stuck somewhere in between. This might be the darkest moment of your life, but it's also the most honest one. Because all illusions are gone. During grief, you realize something shocking, happiness is optional. You can live without it. You stop chasing euphoria, and you learn how to survive in silence. You cut off the noise, pointless conversations, cheap jokes, empty entertainment. It all disappears. You start seeing people differently, you start feeling other people's pain. And suddenly you understand something uncomfortable, the people who laugh the loudest, just haven't reached your depth yet. At this point, you become more honest, more real. Because you have nothing left to lose, except yourself. Your sense of justice sharpens, it's the last thing still alive inside you. Deep meaning is never born in pleasure, it's born only inside suffering. No one in this world, has ever become strong in comfort. Your personal strength, is measured by the amount of pain you were able to absorb, without running away. Weakness, is measured by how fast you escape discomfort. And here's something important, betrayal creates loyalty. I wouldn't be who I am today, if I hadn't been betrayed, lied to, abandoned without explanation. That pain made me incapable, of inflicting the same pain on someone else. Not because I'm a good guy, but because I would never force another human, to go through what I went through. Ironically, the person who betrayed me, made me loyal. That's why the most loyal people, are usually the ones who were betrayed. They know the darkness, from the inside. True masculinity, is not running from pain. It's the ability, to drink that bitter cup, to the very bottom. When everything is against you, when everything collapses, and instead of begging for mercy, you say, I can take more. Pain is the price of growth, the price of clarity. The man who looks for a quick escape from suffering, remains a fragile boy forever. If you've never lost anything, you've never understood anything. Because loss reveals your structure, your values, your truth, your strength. And gives you one rare opportunity, to finally see, who you really are. Life has one brutal rule, suffering is unavoidable. You can delay it, you can distract yourself, but you cannot skip it. Life moves like a pendulum. Calm, pain, calm, pain. They replace each other constantly. No one escapes this system. If today you feel good, remind yourself that one day it will be hard again. And if today you feel broken, remember that relief will come. This understanding doesn't make life softer, it makes you stronger. Because when you accept that pain is inevitable, you stop panicking when it arrives. You stop asking, why me, and start asking, what is this for? And this shift changes everything. Most people believe suffering is random. Like bad luck. Like you pulled the wrong ticket. But that's a lie. Nothing in your life happens by accident. Not losses. Not breakups. Not betrayals. Everything happens with surgical precision. Even the day she left you was not random. You just don't have enough distance yet to understand why it had to happen exactly that way. Suffering is always a turn in your life. You were driving straight, and suddenly the wheel turns by itself. You don't know where you're going yet. But if the wheel turns without your permission, it means the old road was wrong. And screaming, "Why is this happening to me?" is pointless. The right question is, where is this taking me? I've seen hundreds of men during divorces and breakups. Many of them were standing right on the edge. One more step, and they wouldn't have survived. They never said it directly, but you can feel it. And years later, those same men were calling me happy. New families. New peace. Saying they had never felt so calm in their lives. Even though 2 years earlier they were sure their life was over. The problem is this. When you're inside pain, you don't see the full picture. You think you're being destroyed. But in reality, you're being relocated. Tragedy pushes you exactly where you're supposed to be. There are only a limited number of life scenarios. Thinking everything depends only on your choices is childish. We walk along predefined paths. The only real freedom we have is noticing when it's time to turn. If a woman betrays you and leaves, that is not your choice anymore. The decision has already been made for you. And if life sends you such a clear signal, ignoring it would be stupidity. There is a very high chance that the woman you're meant to be with already exists somewhere. She's living her life right now. Drinking coffee. Completely unaware of you. Just like you are unaware of her. And this isn't fantasy. This is how reality works. I know this because before meeting my wife, I went through the darkest period of my life. I had accepted the idea that I would never have a normal, let alone happy life. My only comfort was helping people close to me feel a little better. Sometimes I woke up with tears in my eyes, knowing there was no solution. No exit. No hope. For months I just endured. Until my mental resources ran out completely. I remember flying on a plane during heavy turbulence. People were scared. Nervous. And I felt nothing. Absolute indifference. Whether I lived or died didn't matter anymore. That's how empty I was. Out of this despair, I started going to church almost every day. It helped emotionally, but the problem didn't disappear. It even got worse. That's why I left the city and drove through forests, losing signal, losing connection. At one gas station I connected to Wi-Fi, for no reason. Installed a dating app. Uploaded a couple photos. And the very first message I received was from my future wife. Not weeks later. Not hundreds of chats. 20 minutes. She answered questions no one before her ever answered correctly. And the timing was insane. The day we matched was a religious holiday. I was driving to a monastery. Her name was Mary. And shortly after, the problems that tortured me for months resolved themselves. The chain of coincidences was statistically impossible. If I had stayed home, it wouldn't have happened. If I had left 1 hour later, it wouldn't have happened. If the radius was smaller, it wouldn't have happened. This is why I know there are no accidents. And this is why I say this carefully. When you stop chasing your ex, it's not just about her feelings. It's about you finally stepping onto the road you were avoiding. Now let's talk about what really happens when you stop chasing your ex. Not fantasies. Not movies. Reality. When you disappear, her brain doesn't feel relief forever. At first, yes. She feels lighter. Calmer. She thinks, good. It's over. The pressure is gone. The drama stopped. But then something strange begins. Silence. And the human brain hates silence. Especially when it used to receive constant emotional stimulation. Messages. Reactions. Attention. Validation. When that supply suddenly disappears, the brain doesn't register it as freedom. It registers it as loss. Her nervous system starts looking for the missing stimulus. She checks her phone. She rereads old messages. She watches your stories. Not because she suddenly loves you again, but because her system is trying to restore balance. This is not romance. This is neurobiology. When you chased her, you were predictable. Safe. Always available. Your value was capped. The moment you stop chasing, uncertainty appears. And uncertainty is far more powerful than attention. Now her mind starts filling the silence with questions. Why isn't he writing? How is he so calm? Did I misjudge him? And here's the key point. She doesn't miss you as a person first. She misses the version of herself, who felt desired by you. That's the uncomfortable truth. Attention is addictive. And when the drug is removed abruptly, withdrawal begins. This is why chasing never works. Chasing confirms her decision. Disappearing challenges it. But listen carefully. This is not a strategy to manipulate her back. If you disappear just to provoke a reaction, you're still dependent. Still reactive. Still orbiting her. Real detachment is when you don't care whether she feels anything or not. And paradoxically, that's when your value peaks. Because now your life is no longer built around her reactions. Her brain senses this shift immediately. Humans detect indifference faster than affection. When you stop chasing, she loses control over the emotional dynamic. And control is what many people confuse with love. She may test you. Small messages. Neutral questions. Hey, how are you? Not because she wants a relationship, but because she wants to see if the door is still open. If you run back immediately, the dynamic resets. If you stay calm, respectful, but unavailable, the tension increases. But here's the truth most channels won't tell you. Even if she comes back, it doesn't mean you should take her. Because if nothing inside you changed, the same ending is waiting. Reconciliation without transformation is just delayed pain. This pause after the breakup is not about winning her back. It's about breaking the pattern that led you here. Most men don't lose women because they're bad. They lose them because they abandon themselves. They shrink. They overinvest. They tolerate disrespect. And then they're surprised when attraction dies. When you stop chasing, you send a signal. Not to her. To yourself. That your dignity matters more than comfort. That your self-respect is not negotiable. And whether she returns or not, this is the moment your real recovery begins. Because the goal is not to be chosen again. The goal is to become a man, who never needs to chase in the first place. There are two types of pain, useful pain and useless pain. Useful pain makes you stronger. Useless pain destroys you. Most men confuse them. Useful pain is when you accept the loss, feel it fully, and move forward with open eyes. Useless pain is when you get stuck in the past. Replaying conversations. Imagining better replies. Checking when she was last online. Watching her stories like they're evidence in a court case. Asking yourself, what if I disappeared for a week? What if I send one last message? This is not healing. This is self-torture. A fighter treats his wound and keeps moving. A masochist keeps poking the wound so it never heals. Ask yourself honestly, what are you doing with your wound right now? Are you treating it, or are you digging into it? The brain is a dangerous liar after a breakup. It edits reality. It cuts out months of tension, boredom, disrespect, and shows you a highlight reel of 10 good moments with sad music in the background. That's nostalgia. And nostalgia is a mild form of voluntary depression. You didn't lose something unique. You lost something familiar. And the brain confuses those two things constantly. Your ex is not as special as she seems right now. She feels irreplaceable only because your nervous system is in withdrawal. This is chemistry, not destiny. If you want to regain clarity, you must manually rebuild your memories. Not romantic fragments. Full days. From morning to night. Remember the irritation. The heaviness. The moments you didn't want to see her. The times you questioned whether this relationship even made sense. This is how you break the illusion. The first real sign of recovery is when you find your first advantage in being alone. Even a small one. Freedom. Silence. Control over your time. That's the moment you leave drama mode. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Good relationships don't collapse. Bad ones do. Relationships don't end because of one argument or one mistake. They end because the foundation was wrong. Living in memories is psychological immaturity. Reality is evaluated today, not 5 years ago. A flat tire today doesn't care that your tires were new in the past. If you measure your relationship by how it started, instead of how it ended, you're lying to yourself. Breakups are not accidents. They are course corrections. If your relationship collapsed, the philosophy you lived by was flawed somewhere. And deep down, you already know where. Neuroscience confirms this. Emotional pain activates survival, memory, and analytical centers of the brain. When you hurt, you have maximum potential to become wiser. If the pain doesn't let go, it means the lesson is unfinished. Time doesn't heal. Conclusions heal. Not notes in a journal. Decisions. Firm decisions to never repeat the same pattern again. This is why good men often get hit the hardest. Because there is something in you that can change. And people who hurt you often act as instruments. That's why I say this half-jokingly but seriously. The women who break men accidentally create the strongest ones. And before we finish this part, here's a practical anchor. When stress starts eating you alive, go to a place where time has stopped. A cemetery. Walk among the names. Among people who were once young, worried, in love, heartbroken. None of their dramas matter now. If they were given one more year, one more month, one more week, they wouldn't waste it on anxiety or chasing someone who left. This perspective cuts through illusions better than any book or therapist. It reminds you of one simple fact. You're still here. You're breathing. And that means, your story isn't over. Let's end this properly. The final truth about letting go is this. You don't let go by forgetting. You let go by understanding. Forgetting is passive. Understanding is active. Most people wait until emotions fade. Strong men decide. They don't wait for clarity. They create it. Closure doesn't come from a message. Or an apology. Or one last conversation. Closure comes from a conclusion you reach alone. And here is the conclusion that actually frees you. If someone can walk away from you, they are not your person. No matter how intense it felt. No matter how rare it seemed. Real connection doesn't require chasing. It doesn't require convincing. It doesn't require shrinking yourself. Love that needs to be earned every day is not love. It's anxiety with memories attached. The reason you're still thinking about her is not because she was the one. It's because the version of you in that relationship was incomplete. You gave more than you had. You built your identity around being chosen. Around being needed. Around being enough for someone else. When that structure collapses, it feels like you lost yourself. But you didn't lose yourself. You found the place where you were missing. And this is where the transformation actually happens. You stop trying to be understood, and start becoming solid. You stop chasing emotional validation, and start building internal stability. You stop asking, "Why did she leave?" and start asking, "Why did I tolerate what I tolerated?" This shift is subtle. But once it happens, you can't unsee it. And here's the paradox. When you truly move on, people from the past often reappear. Not because fate is testing you, but because your energy changed. You no longer seek. You evaluate. You no longer beg. You choose. And this is why many men fail at the last step. They heal just enough to become attractive again, but not enough to walk away when the wrong person returns. If she comes back and nothing has changed, that's not redemption. That's a loop. And loops are designed to drain you. Breaking the loop means choosing loneliness over familiar pain. It means trusting that peace is better than intensity. It means accepting that some chapters are only meant to teach, not to continue. You didn't lose her. You lost the illusion that she was the source of your value. And that illusion had to die. The strongest version of you is not the one who gets her back. It's the one who no longer wants to. Because now, you don't chase. You don't prove. You don't convince. You live. And people either walk beside you, or they don't. And that's okay. This is the end of that chapter. And the beginning of a far stronger one.